So I forgot that it's not common knowledge for most Americans that we stole Hawaii and the things that we did to Native Hawaiians. So I'm going to tell you, we're going to do a little recap today because we're going to put some motherfucking respect on Hawaii's name, okay? So I'm going to give you the best breakdown I feel like I can give you. This might be a little bit of a long video, but I promise I will make it interesting. So Hawaii used to be an independent kingdom. It was led by Queen Liliuokalani. I would argue that the issues with Hawaii started in like early 1800s because the Hawaiian population went from like 300,000 to 40,000 in the course of 100 years because the usual culprits, they came over, missionaries, settlers, and they stank asses over here with diseases that the Hawaiian population had no immunity to. So these foreign settlers didn't care though, because Hawaii's soil and climate was perfect for growing sugar, which was one of the most profitable crops in the world at the time. So these massive plantations get built. They're using labor from Native Hawaiians and Asian immigrants. And one of the most powerful plantation leaders was Sanford Dole, who was a businessman who helped overthrow Hawaii. And went on to become the president of the new U.S.-backed government that came after the overthrow and just before it became a state. And if you're wondering who Sanford Dole is, you know those little fruit cups that say Dole? Yeah, that guy. Throw them in the trash. So a group of Dole's little friends, businessmen, they forced the king of Hawaii, who was the queen's brother, to sign the Bayonet Constitution. They held him at gunpoint, and he signed this constitution, and it took away rights from the Hawaiian monarchy, voting rights from Native Hawaiians, and it essentially gave all this control to these wealthy plantation owners. So then when the queen realized what's going on, she's like, no. So she introduces a new constitution to restore this authority to the monarchy and return political power to Native Hawaiians. But the plantation elites saw this as a threat. They're like, so what are we going to do about this? Sanford Dole and his friends formed this group called the Committee of Safety, and they began organizing a plan to overthrow the queen. So the U.S. military gets involved because they're like, oh, so there's money in this. 1893, U.S. Marines deployed to Honolulu. So these armed troops are positioned all around the palace, government buildings, and they back the overthrow of Hawaii. The queen was essentially given an ultimatum of like, okay, give up Hawaii or thousands of Native Hawaiians are probably going to die. And so she wanted to protect her people from bloodshed. And she gave up her throne because at the time she said she trusted that the United States would investigate this. It must be a mistake, and they would restore the kingdom. But instead, the men that were behind the overthrow created their own government, which the U.S. supported. It was called the Republic of Hawaii, and the president was Sanford Dole. And so supporters of the queen fought against this in like 1895, and the response from the new government was that they declared martial law, which is like total military control on the islands. Okay, you lose a lot of your normal rights. We saw dozens of her supporters get arrested. The queen herself was kidnapped and imprisoned in her own palace, and they charged her with treason against the government that overthrew her government, which is insane. So then in 1897, like almost 40,000 Hawaiians signed this petition begging the United States not to annex their country, right? The queen is writing letters to the White House. These petitions were so powerful that it stopped the annexation treaty in Congress, right? So we weren't able to annex Hawaii through a treaty at all. And that's important because under international law at the time, the only legitimate way for a country to annex another was through a treaty approved by both governments. So without a treaty, just taking land like that was illegal. And so instead, our little loophole that we did was we passed the Newlands Resolution to claim the islands anyway. But the issue is that a resolution is just a domestic law. It only applies to the U.S. It doesn't have the power to legally annex another country under international law. So you can't just pass a law for yourself and claim someone else's land, which is why you hear Native Hawaiians and people with brains saying that the annexation of Hawaii was illegal, because at the time what was important to us was Asia, especially China and Japan, because our merchant ships were constantly crossing up around the Pacific, because Hawaii sits almost perfectly between North America and Asia. So it was a crucial place for us to refuel our ships, for us to station our forces, the Navy. So controlling Hawaii meant protecting our trade routes, projecting our military power, preventing rivals from controlling that position, and Pearl Harbor. That's all I'm gonna say. So after the takeover of Hawaii, another thing that's important is that we tried to erase Hawaiian culture. So in 1896, Hawaiian was banned from being taught in schools. Hawaiian children were being punished for speaking Hawaiian. They were forced to speak English. And then we saw what was called the Hawaiian Renaissance, where they fought to bring back their language and culture. Really amazing. I don't have time to touch on it in this video, but you can go and look it up if you want to check that out. Then about I want to say a decade or two later, the United States, in 1993, Congress passed what was called the Apology Resolution, which was us admitting that U.S. agents helped overthrow the Hawaiian Kingdom, and that Native Hawaiians had never relinquished their sovereignty. So in other words, we wrote an apology admitting that the overthrow of Hawaii was legal. We were just like, okay, hey, sorry, we did that, but can't do anything about it now. So it starts to make you look at other U.S. territories differently, like Puerto Rico, where U.S. still controls the land, the government, but the people there have no voting rights, no real sovereignty. And so in moments of crisis, you see the same pattern. So the same way that the people of Hawaii felt ignored during the Maui fires is the same way that Puerto Rico was treated after those devastating hurricanes. It's control without care. And it's essentially history repeating itself. And I feel like it's important to call attention to this, because I come back when it happens, but I 100% believe that the United States government is trying to make Puerto Rico the next Hawaii.